Good morning. Our opening words today are from an unknown poet that are titled, "Will You Love Me When I'm Old?" When the deaf ear, strained to listen, scarcely hears the opening word, and the unfathomed depths of feeling are by no swift current stirred, fond memory, like a limner, many a line perspective cast, spreading our bygone pleasures on the canvas past. When the leaping blood grows sluggish, fire of youth has fled, when the friends now surround us, half are numbered with the dead, when the years appear to shorten, scarcely leaving us a trace, old time with bold approaches marks his dial upon my face. When the ready tongue is palsied, form is bowed with care, our only hope is heaven, our only help is prayer, and our idols, broken round us, fall amid the ranks of men. Till death uplifts the curtain, will thy love endure. Good morning. On behalf of the entire congregation, I welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist Church of the Shenandoah Valley. I'm Corey Barnes, your worship associate for today. We come together each Sunday morning as a community of seekers. Seekers of what is most important in our lives, seekers of uncertainty, of understanding in the face of uncertainty and loss, seekers of forgiveness for our shortcomings, seekers of gratitude for the unexpected gifts we receive from all around us. We gather in awe of the beauty of nature and mysteries of the universe. But most importantly, we come together as seekers of a community of love and empowerment, celebrating our search for truth and meaning in our daily lives. Today we have, again, Rev Dyer. He studies equality and embodiment in the Religious Studies PhD program at the University of Virginia. I'm of University. He is an ordained minister and was chaplain at Harvard University and the lead minister at First Parish in Cambridge Unitarian Universalist. He is the author of Love Beyond God and maintains his own blog, spiritualwellness.org. In 2021, he contributed to the Harvard Kennedy School LGBTQ Policy Journal with Religious Equity, A Path to Greater LGBTQ Inclusion. Rev Dyer has worked with the Alliance for Boys and Men of Color in California, My Brother's Keeper in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and PICO networks with a focus towards equity, gender, and sexuality. Rev Dyer received his BA from Princeton University and his MDiv from Pacific School of Religion, where he earned the Certificate in Sexuality and Religion and was recognized with the Paul Wesley Yinger Preaching Award. Now, as Anna comes forward to light our chalice, let's all say here and from our homes the words for lighting our chalice. In the light of truth and in the warmth of love, gather to seek, sustain, share. And I invite you to join with us as we say our covenant. Love is the spirit of this church. Quest for truth is a sacrament. Dwell together in peace. Seek the truth in freedom, and to help our neighbor. These ends we covenant one with another. Now, please rise and body your spirit as we sing our opening song. Number 1010 in our teal hymnal, We Give Thanks. Now for our time for all ages. The existence of a snowflake is a journey, like your life, which is a journey too. It starts in a cloud. Clouds carry drops of water vapor. Clouds also contain tiny particles of dust. Drops of water vapor cling to the particles of dust, and when conditions are cold enough, the water freezes into crystals and a snowflake is born. Crystals can attach in many different ways, making infinite patterns. Infinite means more numbers than anyone could ever count. The temperature, what the cloud is like, and other factors influence how the snowflake grows. It was probably true that no two snowflakes are identical. Each one is unique, like you are unique from everyone else who has ever lived. Each snowflake has a journey ahead of it. Some parts of the journey are common to all snowflakes, and some parts are unique. The next part of the journey is the same for every snowflake. It falls to earth. But where it falls can vary. The snowflake may fall on a warm sidewalk and melt to water right away. It may fall on cooler grass and stick. I like when a snowflake falls gently on my eyelashes. The snowflake may even fall on top of other snowflakes, making piles of snow that you can build into snow kids. Eventually, though, all snowflakes take the same journey of melting into water. Some water is soaked into the ground and nourishes plants, flowers, and even vegetables like tomatoes. Some water runs into gullies and to rivers, which meet at the ocean, the biggest gathering of ex-snowflakes on the planet. Water from the oceans and plants and other sources evaporates when it gets warm and turns into water vapor. Where does the water vapor go? Back up into the clouds. Our snowflake has returned from where it began. Now it's time to sing our children out. Go now in peace, go now in peace, may the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
I'd like to share with you the words from Catherine Mosby, at the end of which I'll ring the bell. We'll have a moment of silence together, and then I'll ring the bell when we finish with that. But first, the words of Catherine Mosby. Deliver me to myself, that I may stop fretting the hours in vain, looking for what's lacking, always elsewhere and otherwise. Let befall me the peace which drops like the wind, suddenly between even the slightest folds of a linnet's wing, between shadow and sky, the hush like the intervals of quiet, between questions, between the calls of crickets, the sorrow of one season and the next, swift and sure and sharp as grace. So since I last saw you, I finally got COVID. Right? Like, yeah. Which is miraculous, actually, considering that I was in Cambridge, Massachusetts, which was one of the early epicenters. I had literally been in the building that had been the epicenter. I then did pastoral care in hospitals, tending to different people before the vaccine, masking a lot. Then immediately following that, I was the first tranche of vaccines. I've had 7 vaccines. I mean, it's like been just in and around me so much. So to finally actually see a positive test was like, no. And it was fast, like drops and ring. I was like, wow, that's impressive. So you'll pardon me for having a little bit of glue in the pipes today. And hopefully that won't get too much in the way of our message. I love cars. Done? No. I've loved cars since I was a small child. When I was particularly young, I was fascinated by the inner workings of engines and even tried to design my own. As I've grown older, however, my fascination is actually with the cosmetic aspects of cars. Not just a shallow interest in the silhouette of a car. I'm obsessed with what the styling of cars says about the world in which they exist. A 1967 Shelby GT 500 convertible, that's based on a Mustang, it shouldn't exist. I mean, it can only exist in a world of cheap gasoline and totally lacks safety standards. No one should be able to do 0 to 60 in 7 seconds in a 355 horsepower vehicle without a seatbelt or a headrest or a roof for that matter. I mean, what kind of people drive a car like that? I find myself asking that a lot as I drive around these days. I drive a lot. I'm currently on my 3rd car in my life that I will have driven over 100,000 miles. That driving includes 5 solo trips across the country and driving the north-south length of both coasts multiple times. I am, to put it one way, a road warrior. As such, I've seen a lot and experienced different driving styles all over the country. I've even driven outside of the country, not just in Canada, but in Mexico. There is documented proof of me literally driving a Hummer around Cozumel. Again, what kind of people drive a car like that? Apparently I do. With all the miles driven under my belt, I feel like I can make a sweeping generalization based on a good deal of personal experience. People's driving skills have completely imploded. Particularly since COVID, no one signals. Running red lights is not just an occasional thing, it's actually a rule of the road for some people. I'm looking at you, Commonwealth of Virginia. And there is no sense of anyone being on the road with anyone else. I've witnessed more people making stupid and sudden left turns and then giving me the "I'm doing a thing here" face as if it's my fault they're running into oncoming traffic. And with my auto obsession, I can also see how part of this posture behind the wheel has to do with the cars people drive. Cars are too easy to drive now, and they are too big in the wrong kinds of ways. Not enough to have power steering and power brakes, but cameras everywhere, lane sensors, autopilot, and full integration with your personal technology. All of this means that most people behind the wheel of new cars have very little attention to what's actually going on the road, and with all the airbags and side impact structures and tinted glass and captain's chairs, many people can barely see over the wheel. But isn't this the case in so many parts of our lives? There is detachment and casual connection in place of relationship and intimacy. Our cars reflect who we are or who we want to be. And how we get around and move around in the world reflects so much of what we see in the world. To me, as someone who is invested in what people believe and how our ethics shape our world, that signals a true crisis. So I wanted to start with this fairly involved overture about cars, because for the most part, cars are not something deeply personal or triggering. It is, however, different when we talk and think about the people we love or have loved, and what it means to see them age and change, body and mind. I'm sure that the first place most of us go is pretty deep and meaningful, maybe painful or wistful. Talking about people matters. Talking about a 1970 Chevrolet Caprice Kingswood Estate wagon, less so. Yet, like the station wagon we might drive, the people in our lives are reflections of us. Not just, not just who we attract, but how they interact with us, how we interact with them, how trust manifests between us, what language we use with them. The people we love help us understand ourselves in certain ways, and they take us on many different journeys. The main thing that separates the station wagon from the loved one is that while the station wagon may reflect who we are, family, income, community, the people we love reflect us on a much deeper level, and we reflect them. It's an exchange. They reflect the good stuff, what we like to look at, what we do, who we like to touch, but they also reflect our vulnerabilities and our boundaries. They reflect the 1,000,001 ways in which we are everyday people. They reflect our humanity. They might even reflect parts of ourselves that sometimes we miss in ourselves altogether. And it goes both ways. So, when those reflections begin to change, it can be shocking. Unlike a car that may get rusty or have brake issues or a cracked windshield, the way in which our loved ones change as they age cannot be fixed by Midas or Meineke. The changes that happen in their bodies, particularly if it is connected with aging, often means no real turning back. Those long walks you used to take together may not be enjoyable once the knees have started to give out. Music doesn't have the same shared joy when you can't hear it well. The various diseases of cognition that sometimes take away vast swaths of remembered experience or personality can't be switched out for new ones. The shift between then and now can leave us shell-shocked, devastated. What do you do with the changes? I think many of us resent them. Because we don't want to recognize the reflection of those we love as well and immediately as ourselves, reflected in those we love, because we want to share in the delightful exchange. We are frustrated when the images don't add up. I can tell you right now, I don't have a tidy button or thesis to round out this message. I'm learning this in real time. Not only am I learning it like all of you, I'm relearning it for every loved one I experience change in. It is both miraculous and incredibly hard. I have no answers. The only real comfort I can give you is that you really aren't alone. Maybe that's it. Maybe we aren't supposed to have an answer to witnessing decline. Maybe we're just supposed to receive it along with everything else that adds up to our being alive. Maybe this is another example of how we really need to be less human doings and more human beings. Suppose if there is anything for us to learn, bearing witness to the change and evolution of those we care about, is how and why it is so important to be non-judgmental. Because these changing bodies that we've cared for and cherished and grown with and created with are also reflections of us. It makes no sense to be critical or dismissive. We have to accept the changes. That other body, those other bodies will always be with you. Together, you shaped your world. Are you my greatest blessing? This shadow of who I once knew, who barely understands or has little strength. The body and the brain has withered, even the glance has changed, now filled with fear and frailty. But shadows are funny metaphors. They need light to exist. And even as the bodily you fades from view, the light of you is bright somehow. In it, shadow, there, wicked, crooked smile, the boom of your laughter, the tender, clumsy touch, all of you is still crystal clear in my heart. As you turn into only shadow in front of me, all of what is outlined around you is cast in light. Can it be that the light comes from within me? If it does, you gave me that light. You gave me light. You gave us shape. You are my greatest blessing. Again, I don't really have any answers here other than to remind you and to remind myself that our world is made of reflections, not just the visual ones, but the feelings, the memories, the touch, the sound, the experience of each other. All of that, all of your human being is wrapped up in the someones we love. In fact, maybe the reflection is love. So when that reflection changes, when the body that holds all of that magic begins to slow, and we as human creatures anticipate that the reflection will end, we get anxious, We get irrational. We get desperate to find ways to hold on. But this is also the beauty of being a human and not a car or some other kind of inanimate object. The reflection works both ways. The experience of love creates a permanent imprint of every reflection of those we love. They become part of us and part of what we reflect into the world. The ache in your heart, the yearning we feel as we accompany the changes in the bodies of those we love, is shaped in the perfect outline of what we first knew of them. The smooth face, the shock of hair, the eyes deep and wondrous. And when they are finally gone, the ache and the hunger be cavernous, consuming, total. But we are not completely lost in that. In the stillness, the isolation, the darkness, the grief, it is only in that space that we can truly find the light. You gave me that. You gave me light. You gave us. You are greatest blessing. May it be so.
The purpose of this church is to encourage all who gather to grow more generous in spirit and in action. We will now gratefully receive an offering to sustain the self-supporting church within and beyond its walls. If you happen to be watching online, we hope that you will consider making an offering through our website, ushenandoah.org.
Corey if it would be all right if I introduce this final hymn, because it is an example of that reflection. Or rather, my sharing it with you is an example of that reflection. As you heard in my bio, I was the lead minister at First Parish in Cambridge. I'm very proud of that. Could be. And I had the immense pleasure of becoming very close with the minister emeritus of that church, Reverend Thomas Michelson. He and his wife, Patricia Shepherd, helped guide me through my time at First Parish in Cambridge. Shortly after I arrived, Thomas Michelson was diagnosed with dementia, and he started on a fairly rapid decline. And I mention it here publicly because he actually mentioned it publicly as well. He wanted the congregation to know that this was his experience. And so that became part of our journey together. And it informs some of what I say along with my own personal story of loss. But then in 2020, in April, he succumbed to COVID. It was the first loss to COVID in our congregation. And from that moment, I said to myself, I will always honor him. And if you look at the song, he wrote the words. So with that, please. You may rise in body or in spirit, singing 298, Wake Thou My Senses. Can it be that this light comes from within me? If so, you gave me all that. You gave me light, you gave us shape. You are my greatest blessing. May you always continue to reflect the love of those you love as they reflect in you. Go in peace.